Hey guys, we're working with a Frigidaire washer dryer. That washer isn't spinning correctly, not all the time. And this is on a model number FGX831FS5. So we're gonna figure out why that's happening. We get our final spin, we pull it out. We don't hear anything. We don't hear the motor. We don't hear any kind of a spin going on. So probably the motor's not getting power. And usually that's due to the lid switch. Maybe it's the lid isn't down far enough. So if we push down a little bit on the lid, let's see what happens. And now we can hear the motor. And we can hear it spinning, so that works. I let go, then it stops because it no longer has power going to the motor. And try to another part of the dial too. Sometimes parts of the dial, the contacts get worn out or they get carbon buildup, and maybe part of the dial on spin doesn't work. We go to this part of the dial, we try final spin. Same scenario, no sound. Let's try pushing down. Yeah, now we can hear it spinning. So that's just going to be a problem with the lid switch, and we just have to find a way to get this lid to sink down a little bit further. There's just a contact point that has to close. So we're going to let it sit for a second until it releases. Usually takes about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then you can lift it up. So it did release this little arm. There's a hook in there holding it, but now it released. You never want to force that, you just let it come loose. So probably what's going on is this thing is just not able to go all the way down as it should. And in this case, it's unusual, but got a little bit of an upward bend here underneath this guy. So it looks like the metal got kind of rusted at one point and maybe contorted. So this part is bent up higher than it should be. So maybe we can bend that down and then we'll see if that's going to make it close better. Piece back in. Give it a little downward pressure. See if there's bend. Yeah, I think the metal just bent down more flat again. Also, some washers, not this brand, but other washers will have a little rubber stopper here and here so that it closes more gently. And you can take a razor blade and shave off a little bit of that rubber. It'll still be soft, but it'll close better. Let's see if that helps on this one. I'm going to go to final spin. So we still need to give it a little push. Yeah, so we need to go still a little lower for that to work. Kind of compare the sides. If you look at this side, it's very flat and curved down somewhat, and on this side it's not curved down as much, so it still needs to go down further for that to engage properly. Give it a little more downward force. Just slightly bending the metal. Okay, that's more down. Let's see if that's going to be better. Yeah, in fact, now when I close it, I can hear a click. And that click should be that switch closing. Let's see if it's better. Yeah, okay. So I think that did the trick. So on yours may be different, but could be that there's just something in the way of this closing all the way. The way to figure that out is set it for spin, you give it some downward pressure and see if that helps. If yours still doesn't spin, we'll go to the next thing, which is to look in here where the motor is and the belt. So we're going to unplug it first for safety's sake. The way you would know maybe something's wrong with the belt is you would hear the motor. You could hear the motor spinning, but the tub isn't spinning. So maybe something went wrong with the transmission, or maybe the belt just slipped off. Pretty easy to fix. So in this machine, to get to the belt, you want to get this front cover off, and there's a couple of Phillips head screws that are on the bottom. fairly accessible. It's a little rusted, so I'll probably put some oil on that to just preserve it better. Sometimes when people use bleach or even detergent, it'll pour down on the metal if they're using too much, and that can cause trouble. Now I got to get the whole front panel to go down a little bit. You can use a screwdriver, something to pry in there, push down, and then pull towards you. You can get it off. Yeah, we got some corrosion down there. So what you might want to do before you reassemble it is use a wire brush, get off all the corrosion, and then use some Rust-Oleum primer, which stops rust. And then you could put a coating of paint on. You almost don't need it on the inside, but wherever you see the rust, and that'll just stop that from getting worse. All right, so when we look down here, we could see if the belt's doing okay. It is possible for the transmission to lock up. Remember, it is important to have this unplugged before you do this step. But you can try moving the transmission. In this case, it's turning to my left. So if you look at it from the top, it's turning counterclockwise. And it's doing that very easily. And if I go the other way, it's not turning. So I think that's the direction it's going to go for agitation. So here's the belt. The belt here looks pretty good. The rubber still feels supple. It has not fallen off. But if yours has fallen off, or if you need to take off your belt, not too hard to do. What we do is push in on this spring-loaded idler pulley, and that's going to take tension off the belt. And then we can get my thumb over here on the bigger pulley, and I'm gonna, as I push in on this one, I'm gonna take my thumb and push the belt down so it drops down where I can get it out of there. I'm pushing in here, pushing down with my thumb, and now the belt's coming off of the big pulley. I'm turning the pulley too. That helps me get the belt off. Now it's come loose of the big pulley. I'm going to bring it down below these smaller pulleys. This is the motor pulley. And now I can get the belt out of there. You can also take the whole tub and move it up like that to give you more room. You can inspect the belt. This one looks pretty good. So you look for the rubber. This is a little shiny, and it's better if it isn't, because if it's not shiny, it grabs a little better. There is a weakness in the belt here. It may not be a bad idea to replace this one, although this one probably would go for a little longer. So if you want to put on a new belt, what you do is feed it in, kind of like how we took it off, right? You're going to go tilt the machine up, give you a little room. You're going to slide it underneath that big pulley. Get it over the big pulley to get the tension off of it. Create some more room. There we go. Okay, almost got this. Pushing in. Got it fed onto the idler wheel. And now spinning really good. So if yours is not, if you hear the motor spinning but you don't see the tub spinning, could be a broken belt, or it could just be a belt that's so worn that it's not really grabbing anymore. So you can get one. We'll put a link in the description below and just pop it on like we did. That'll probably solve the problem. Another thing that could happen is if you have a lot of water in the tub and the water can't leave the tub, it'll be too heavy, it'll have a lot of trouble spinning. Sometimes what happens is something gets caught in this pump right here. And if you want to check that, you have to try to get as much water out of the tub as possible, or you could put a clamp on this big tube to stop water from flowing from the tub into the pump. Because what we're going to do is take this clamp off and see if we can get into the pump to see if there's an obstruction. But if you did that and you didn't put a clamp, a lot of water, all this water would come flying at you, which you don't want. You don't want to cause a flood. So you either want to use a shop vac, it's a wet or dry shop vac to get all the water out, or put a really good clamp here to squish this so water can't flow from here into the pump. Once you stop the water somehow, either by getting rid of it or clamping it, you can take off this one, and you can also remove a screw here and a screw here, and you can turn the pump and you can look in and see if something might be caught there. Sometimes there'll be like a sock that got sucked in to this tube and is now trying to get in here, and it's stopping the flow of water. So you can just pull that sock out. Sometimes there'll be like a bra wire or a coin or paper clip that found its way down this tube and got caught in the impeller, and the impeller can't spin, and then it can't get rid of the water. So you want to clear that out and then hook this back up and then drain it. When it's drained out all the water, it should be able to spin. So those are the different things that can happen that can cause your machine not to spin. Another thing that's rare is this big motor eventually gets worn out and it doesn't have the power anymore to spin, but I think that's going to be a rare case. Usually the belt is either worn out or broken. The next most common thing is it can't drain, so it can't get rid of the water, it's too heavy, it can't spin. And then a possibility is that the motor itself has failed, but that's very rare because they're pretty tough motors. This thing up here is the lid switch, and it has to sense that the lid is closed. In our case, it was having trouble because there's so much corrosion, the metal had swelled up. You can see that somebody has washed like a comforter in here at some point, which is a bad idea because you can see all the cotton that came out. It's all over the place. These machines get abused because people wash things that are too heavy in them, like big blankets. But if yours is not spinning, in our case it was the lid had to go down lower, but it could be that you have to replace this lid switch, and it's really easy to do. There's a couple of screws holding it in. You have to take out this modular connector and then one spade connector here, one spade connector here on the switch that senses the door being closed, and you replace this. In our case, again, we just had to close it further, and if that doesn't solve it, or if you can hear the motor turning but you don't have any spin, and probably your belt is either worn out or it's broken. And then again, if that isn't the case, it may be there's so much weight in here it just can't spin it because this guy, the pump, has been unable to get rid of the water. Alright, so hopefully that'll help you to get your machine spinning. They're good machines, they last a long time, and please avoid washing heavy things like bathroom mats, sleeping bags, comforters, but towels and sheets and clothing will be fine. I want to show you guys what it looks like when it goes to spin, how the motor and the belt look. So we're going to turn it on. Make sure you don't put your fingers in here. We can see the belt spinning. You can see the transmission spinning. It's going to go faster and faster. Get all the water out. Looks good. Pretty smooth. Turn it off. You can see the motor is stopped, but the transmission has inertia, so it's still going to spin. And this kind of model, it doesn't really have a brake like on some washers, so the lid will stay shut for a while to make sure nobody reaches in while that's still spinning. Pretty good system. We're going to put this front panel back on. We got to get these little guys to go into these holes on both sides, and then this pin has to go up into a hole here, and then we can put the screws on. We're going to get it underneath first, Now line everything up. Fit these little tabs in first step. The other side looks good. I think those are in. This side almost in. That one's good. This one's looking a little awkward. There we go. That one's good. Okay, that side's in. We're gonna lift up, and then we gotta just put the screws back in on the bottom. And it's being held up pretty good by itself, but you could always stuff something in here to hold it up while you put the screws in. Still gotta use some paint here to get rid of, some primer and paint to get rid of the rust. First I'll brush it off with a wire brush, and then I'll use primer and then paint to stop the rust action. There's one. The other side. Two. You ready to go in, honey? Sprinkler start. Watching our video, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance, and also click the little bell notification button so we can send you weekly videos on all the different ways of fixing appliances around your home and saving you lots of money. So thanks again for watching, and please also press the like button for our video if this was helpful to you. Feel free to contact me at the email listed below, which is scottthefixitguy@yahoo.com, with any of your questions.